Hey, hey, hey.
Hey,
How is everybody doing on this, what is it, Sunday evening?
yeah, man. Sunday, man. Biden dropped out Sunday.
Yeah, so it's another reason to celebrate, huh?
The sleepy surrender. The sleepy surrender Sunday. That his force in American history. The sleepy surrender Sunday. Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
That's wild. Wow.
yeah,
Talk about it.
yeah, man. Your boy dropped out, and man, I'm torn because I didn't think he would do it. He said he wasn't gonna do it. He said only like God himself could get him to drop out, and
Right.
part of me wanted him to stay in just for the chaos, you know.
Yeah. I think actually is what I think is going to get more chaotic now, man. Got a good article to go over once we start getting into the show. But there's already within as of today, the sun hasn't even set it, and there's some big people that are maybe going up against her. I think it'll be best for the convention to be open and not be a coronation. Let it be a campaign. You know what I'm saying? And not coronation. Uh, I think there's going to be a lot of different voices in the Democratic Party that are going to say, hey, you know, I don't think she's the strongest candidate. You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, I feel like Biden, if he felt that way, he wouldn't have taken so long to uh, to go ahead and bow down. I really do believe, in his mind, he felt like he was the best. He was the best choice amongst or at least the best path. And I've actually, there was this guy, this doctor that was going along around all the shows, this pundit, shall I say, and he had some like 13 keys to winning the presidency, and he said his 13 keys, his 13 factors had accurately predicted, who won the presidency for like some insane amount of number of elections. You know what I mean? And he was saying, for that reason, like if you lose like six out of the 13, then you pretty much have given up the White House. You're not going to get reelected. A lot of it's based on incumbency. So he was saying, the big thing was when you're the incumbent, you have a lot going in your favor, or what have you, or that's one of the 13 keys. And he's like, if Biden left, and it was left to an open convention, then several other keys also cascaded with him leaving, unless he resigned and gave Kamala the presidency that way. And this is for his metric. I believe the president has already stated, Biden has already stated that he's going to finish his term. He's not going to resign and have her finish out his term. He's going to at least do
Yeah.
that. Man,
So,
I think it's gonna be quite interesting to be the next week, let alone 3 months.
so I agree with you. I think he didn't really want to resign. He talked all that trash about, oh yeah, I
Mhm.
didn't want to run, and um, I'm only going to be a one-term president. I'm just trying to get the country back in order. That's what he ran on in 2020. But I think
Right.
a part of that was just like, man, I done ran two other times and I lost.
Hmm.
I don't want to embarrass myself
Yeah, I
and
think
come out
yeah.
here
Uh,
as a vice president and lose to Donald Trump. So I don't really want to go through that process. I don't want to bring my family through it. We got skeletons. I don't want to do it. But then, you make him the nominee. You make him the nominee. He becomes president. And it's like, you can say whatever you want to say, but now you're in the seat. And as an incumbent, you have a greater likelihood of winning a reelection than losing. And I think what really ended up happening, I don't know if the Democrats thought any of the stuff they tried was going to stick. I don't know if they thought the Republicans would say, look, we're not going to let Trump be the nominee. But I think whatever combination of those things happened, they realized Biden wasn't the guy because I mean, and I kind of forgot about this, but like all through 2020, he campaigned from his basement. They built him like a studio. Even after he won, he wasn't in the White House for a long time. He was like in the White House studio that looked like the Oval Office. So they did a lot of things in 2020 that you can't do now because everything is open. And he still looked bad in 2020.
Yeah.
RBN, I posted some links to their videos before, but RBN, for the thumbnail for their video that they're doing about this today, they got the picture. Remember when Jill was like holding her arm out? And it was right in front of Joe's face, and then he like licked her fingers, or he sucked her finger.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh man,
what was this?
But like, that's the kind of weird stuff he was doing in 2020. You know,
2020 he was doing that. Yeah. The media's covered this up, and his campaign, and I mean his people have covered this up. They like you said, they do for a long time, and then just the hubris of like, we're gonna run it back. You know what I mean? And do the same thing again. They knew his condition was declining rapidly. You know.
Let me see. I found it. I'm gonna just for the sake of bringing it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so this is kind of like a monster they created because I could pull up from Matt Orfala a video of everybody in the news media saying, "Oh, Joe Biden is he's sharp as a tack," and it's like, no, and it ain't a woman. It says slightly less weird in context. No, it's not. It's not a woman. It's white. It ain't less weird. You know what I'm saying? Like they just try to clean stuff up. But like, what's the context that would make this make sense? He did this in public.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? What's the context? Let me see. Here, I'll share a different tab. Okay. But like, what's the context that makes that make sense? That's Jill. That ain't a regular, just random woman. It ain't his sister or nothing. It ain't his daughter. It's his wife. But like, what makes this make sense for the sitting president now? But at this time, he was running for president. What makes this make sense? Who else would you see doing this and be like, yeah, that's cool? But he was fried already. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He was fried. And so they did as much as they could to keep him away from everybody. But after everything opens up and Trump is going out and doing rallies and pretty much everybody is out, even if they're still wearing masks, everybody's out. Nobody's still playing that game. Like, you can't justify having this man locked away. And,
how can you talk about you're saving democracy, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
When it's obvious his handlers who are unelected are running the country. You know what I mean? We didn't, we didn't vote, or those who voted for him, let's say that, because I didn't vote at all for him at all, neither him or Trump. But for those who voted for him, or for those who elected, they didn't elect for Jill Biden and Hunter and whoever other aides, to be, calling the shots and to be running the government behind the scenes. That's not democracy that you so-called claim are trying to save from Donald Trump. It's just the hypocrisy in all of this, man.
And that's exactly the thing too with the Democrats, like how the game they play, and it's really vicious. It's kind of like that, what is that? What's the guy's name who wrote Alice in Wonderland? I forget. Sure. But remember the story of the Eggman and the walrus? And he was saying like they was both eating oysters or whatever. And he said it looked like the walrus was eating more, whichever, I can't remember which one, but one of them was eating more, it looked like, but the other one was eating twice as many because he was hiding them. Like he was hiding them. So that's really what the Democratic Party is. Let me see, I'll find that.
It says Lewis Carroll was the author of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, Lewis Carroll.
Yeah.
So they do this kind of, so it's the Walrus and the Carpenter. Eggman and Walrus is the Beatles song, but it's the Walrus and the Carpenter.
Okay.
And it says, it's too long. I ain't reading all this.
Yeah.
I was gonna try to get to the point.
Right.
But basically, the carpenter and the walrus were eating oysters together. But the walrus acted like he was cool with the oysters. He was trying to protect them. And the oyster was the carpenter was actually eating them outright. And you know, in the end, the walrus ended up eating maybe twice as many because he held his handkerchief in front of his face, so you couldn't really see that he was hiding the ones he was eating. He looked like he was just crying. Well, I'll leave it like this. Let me see. I'll read the last 3 lines, or the last 3. Well, no, I won't. But that's essentially the process, right? They create whoever the Republican nominee is the next fashion. When it was Mitt Romney, he was the most evil man in the world. Now Mitt Romney is cool because he don't like Trump. Right. When it was John McCain, you know, he was the most existential threat to democracy, to our way of life. And, you know, after he died and whatever, when he was still in the Senate before he died, they still worked with him. They called him a hero, whatever. And so I think inevitably Trump is going to be cool one day. I think I could be wrong. Maybe he's burned too many bridges with the acceptable set of people. But like, this is their plan. They don't actually offer you anything. So even like with JD Vance, I think he's terrible. He's got connections to Peter Thiel, who's connected to the deep state, the CIA, all these intelligence organizations, like the Department of Defense. Whitney Webb did a breakdown. You can watch the video of. Maybe I'll link to it. But like, he ain't a good dude at all.
Right.
He's not a good dude at all. But at least he pretends. Because really, honestly, J.D. Vance fits all the characteristics of what a Democrat is looking for out of a political figure. Grew up poor, right? Hillbilly from his own words. He had that book and that movie, Hillbilly Elegy. Hillbilly from Northern Kentucky, Southern Ohio. Grew up in an abusive family or a drug and alcohol abused family.
Right.
Went to the military, graduated from Ohio State, graduated from Yale with a degree in law, went to go work in the tech industry as an investor in the tech industry, has an Indian wife, well connected with a lot of people in the tech industry, and then go and get into politics. You know what I'm saying? Like, he fits the mold of what a Democrat is looking for. You know, they're prototypical. He just happens to have conservative views, or at least profess to have them. You know, he supports Israel. That's a bipartisan issue. He supports U.S. Posturing up against China, but he'll because it's because you can blame the Democrats for the way that it played out. He could say I'm anti-NAFTA, I'm anti-free trade. You know what I'm saying? So you could throw Joe Biden under the bus because the Democrats were responsible for passing NAFTA. Or you could throw Clinton under the bus because the legacy of NAFTA and free trade is the Democrats to bear. Whereas you don't say, well, hey man, it wasn't a super majority. The Republicans had to actually support this welfare legislation to pass. No Republican has tried to overturn it. Bush didn't try to overturn it. His Congress didn't. No Congress under Obama tried to overturn it. Trump, whatever he did, the USMCA, I don't know if it, apparently it didn't overturn NAFTA because none of those factory jobs have moved from Mexico or China. So, like, he isn't a good person for workers or for black people or whatever. But he's able to pretend, or at least to profess to care about the issues of the working class, about the things that concern us in a way that the Democrats can't do, right? Because they still have to defend NAFTA. They still have to defend these bad trade policies, or even the situation with the border where there's a lot of illegal immigrants coming, or even legal immigration, because so much is given to illegal immigration and the impact that has on, poor people in America, working class people in America, specifically black community, the descendant of freedmen community. But legal immigration is just as much of an issue. Because like we saw in the 80s, when you brought all those nurses in from the Caribbean and from the Philippines and stuff, those were jobs that black women could have or could have had, but the country didn't want to invest or do things that will allow black women to be qualified for those jobs. So you bring in a whole group of legal migrants, just like the
Right.
tech industry. A lot of those guys are Indian
Mhm.
immigrants legally on
Right.
H-1B visas. They come over here and work because there's a shortage of skilled American laborers who can do tech jobs or who will do them
Right.
at that fee. And top of that list is the descendants of freedmen, right? We don't
Right.
we're disproportionately underrepresented in all aspects of non-physical labor jobs, and
Right.
still underrepresented in a lot of the physical labor jobs.
I like how Dr. Claude Anderson, he says he calls it sweat equity.
Right,
So
right,
anything, you look a black person, dancing, performing, that's all sweat. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Compared to like what, real millionaires and real wealthy people, they're living off of passive income, you know what I mean? Residual income. Their money
right,
doesn't work for me. They don't work for money. Their money works for them. That's another
right.
rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kawasaki quote. Yeah, man, it's yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, and so I'll pull up because I did find it. I'm gonna pull up the message from Joe Biden. Uh, unless you have unless you want to share your screen for something, I'm gonna just pull up the message that he released on Twitter saying,
Right.
uh,
I do in reference to, but I'm gonna think I'll just send it to you, man, because I don't have the share button on my end, so
okay,
I'll just send you the
I
links.
can okay, we can do that.
Myself some.
But here it is. It says from Joseph R. Biden Jr. Now, something
Got it.
somebody said on when I was watching Jimmy Dore, they said in the comments, this is interesting. It's not on a presidential official letterhead, right?
Mm,
Somebody said his signature doesn't even look like it normally
that
looks. I don't have it to compare it to. But it is interesting that he said, he wasn't going to drop out unless an act of God or something. And Nancy Pelosi specifically said she wanted a contested convention. Like you were saying earlier, she didn't want just to have Biden endorse Kamala Harris. So let's see. It says, today, July 21st, 2024. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. Yeah, but you made everybody else fail. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just take at face value that it's true, which it ain't, because I think China is still stronger than ours. And Russia is definitely knocking on our door. Everybody in Europe, you made fail. We talked about this with the Ukraine episode when I talked about the Nord Stream pipeline. When I said, well, Nord Stream hadn't happened yet, but I said, I don't know if they're trying to destroy Europe or what's the objective with what they're doing to Europe, but Europe is going to suffer. And I mean, I'm no prophet. I'm no, I'm not even trying to pretend, but just looking at the environment, I was able to kind of piece together what made sense. And bombing the Nord Stream pipeline, you've definitely crippled Europe. So maybe America is the strongest economy in the world that you recognize. But like all your friends and allies, you've made suffer. So they're worse for it. Our standard of living hasn't increased. You just made everybody else low. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, haven't seen it, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. And that's also, that's trick bag language, because what does that mean? A record number, you might have had 1% last year, and you got 2% this year of all Americans. 1% would be 3 million because there's 300 million people here. So 2% could be 6 million. That would be, record number. 1.5% would be a record number. So this is all trick bag language. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. And for me personally, I feel like if you got to say all this stuff, none of it really has any material benefit on my life. I'm not a vet. I mean, I'm sure maybe some vets, who were exposed to toxic substances, this might be a big benefit. I don't know. But like, what about regular working people? You have nothing for working families, working people. working men and women, black people who put you in office, who are responsible for essentially salvaging your campaign for what it's worth, even though I didn't vote for you and I do not plan to vote for you. An African American woman on the Supreme Court does nothing tangibly to our community to help us to manage the day-to-day cost of living that is occurred from being black, but two, just from your presidency with the way inflation has happened. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic, and I don't get why they keep saying once in a century, because that kind of stuff makes it seem like you're planning for it to happen again. Oh, you back. I see. That kind of thing. There you go. That kind of thing makes it seem like you're planning for that to happen again by saying once in a century. What is the
maybe
biological law that
precludes influence?
Yeah. What is the biological law?
Influenza like 1918.
Right.
That was the last.
Yeah, but I'm saying like we've had you remember West Nile was a big deal back in the early 2000s. Early 2000s, meningitis was going crazy. We've had a lot of bird flu, H1N1, I already say West Nile, MERS, right, SARS. So we had a lot of these things that did not take control like COVID ended up doing, but how much of that is a product of the way that they handled it versus the severity of the disease? So I'll go back. It has been the greatest. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And again, I was looking somewhere, and they were saying if you adjust for the numbers, like for inflation, the home to income ratio, or the average income ratio to the average home price ratio, outpaces the level that it was during the Great Depression.
That's wild.
Yeah, and inflation levels they say are higher than they were during the Depression too. So some of this is also going to be a result of. Let me see. Some of this is also going to be a result of they changed the definition of what a recession was, because a recession is supposed to be 2 consecutive quarters of
negative GDP, right?
Say again.
It's supposed to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. Am I correct?
Right. And they changed that. They changed it to something else. And so now you can say, oh, we don't have a recession. And so, we have to be more diligent about this, because whoever they put up is going to still support the same mealy-mouthed policies for the black community. And maybe not even that good, because Kamala said back in, 19 that she wouldn't do nothing. She wasn't going to do nothing that just benefited black people. No. And she was offended about it. She was indignant about it. Right.
I would love to hear her answer now, because I'm pretty for sure it's way more controlled and measured than what she gave.
Well, you know what, man? She probably just started laughing halfway through, because she isn't a better public speaker. Her ability to public speak is horrible as it's ever been. We've protected and preserved our democracy, which, like you said, you haven't. And what makes it so bad, the Democratic Party now, they're either going to have to accept Kamala at the convention, which is undemocratic because nobody voted for her. They voted for Joe Biden. Nobody votes for the president with the expectation that the vice president is going to take control, right? Gore didn't win after Clinton. Joe Biden didn't even want to run. Who was it? I don't think Dan Quayle ran at all. H.W. Bush won after being Reagan's vice president, but that was some shenanigans, because he was a CIA director. He's very well connected in ways that I don't know if we fully understand yet, because he was the CIA director when JFK was assassinated. He was only the CIA director for 9 months. So some really shady stuff in his past. Some articles we could go over, maybe some other show. But a lot of times vice presidents don't become president. Nixon ran twice or something before he won.
Right. He was under Eisenhower.
Well, yeah. Biden's whole situation was just, it was weird anyway because he was basically dragged across the finish line. As far as in the primary, because Obama made the phone call, had everybody drop out and endorse him and leave only Elizabeth Warren in, who was really Bernie's only competitor. Then during the general election, you had a completely new system of voting because you allowed so many mail-in ballots and all this stuff. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was an anomalous time. You had record numbers of voters turn out on both sides of the aisle to vote in a way that I don't necessarily think I believe, but, that's neither here nor there. I mean, having us being at the polls for that election, I don't know if I saw a record number of people participating in the city of Detroit, but again, maybe people stayed home and they voted by mail.
Yeah, that's what it was, allegedly. They said.
Yeah. We revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. And, again, I feel like he just cuffed Europe, basically. Like he's made Europe commit suicide more so than he's stabilized any of our allies or quote unquote allies. This was above my pay grade. So I say allies loosely, but it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president and for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. And so I think, that's a shot in there because, I don't know. This sounds very much like they had him tied up and he did not type this, obviously, but they had him right.
It wasn't his hand.
Yeah.
It does.
For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. Let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you've placed in me. I believe today what I always have, if there's nothing America can't do, when we do it together, we just have to remember we are the United States of America. And then the follow-up tweet he put up endorsing Kamala Harris says, my fellow Democrat, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Now, let's see.
Yeah, okay.
I got that article, but you posted from Politico too. So if you want me to pull it up, I can. If you want to go over it,
sure, we can go over it.
That
was a good segue into it.
Yeah, but like I said, nobody votes for the president with the expectation that the vice president is taking over. Nobody black, because the black people put Obama in office. Nobody black voted for Obama and was like, man, one day Joe Biden is going to be president. You know what I'm saying? So you're in a situation now where it's undemocratic because you essentially named a successor. Then it becomes undemocratic if you don't pick her because the American people haven't gotten to vote on who they want to support anyway, because it'll be a party backdoor deal with the party. Even if it's at the convention in public, the party bosses, the super delegates and all those people will elect the candidate if they don't all just support Kamala Harris. So, this is, you can't save a democracy that you don't support in action. You pay lip service to this idea, but every election the Democrats have is an election with democracy on the line. And I mean, I really believed it a little bit when Mitt Romney and Obama was running, like, oh man, Mitt Romney, like, he'd be terrible. But like, they've done everything that every Republican opponent they had would have done. Right? So, I mean, California Democrats line up behind Harris with big exceptions. You want me to read it or you want to read it?
I can read it, man.
All right.
So within minutes of President Joe Biden dropping out of the race, many California lawmakers and Democratic delegates threw their support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. But there were some key Golden State power brokers and candidates who stayed silent. opting not to follow Biden in coordinating the fellow Californians. So these are people in her own state, not nationwide. These are people in her own state that she comes from, who said she will seek the party's nomination to run against former President Donald Trump. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Emerita, I guess this. Okay, I got it. Nancy Pelosi. So basically, Nancy Pelosi. It's the female version of Emeritus, right? Whenever, who led an intra-party effort to convince Biden to step aside, somberly praised the president for putting our country first, but did not mention Harris. And you know Nancy Pelosi is a huge power broker in the Democratic Party. Also a former San Franciscan who shares many of Pelosi's supporters and donors. Governor Gavin Newsom, himself a potential contender for the nomination, has previously said he would support Harris if the president left the race. But on Sunday, however, the governor's statement also did not mention Harris. I'm just reading that to get some extra thing, but but yeah, it's like a lot of tea is sipping in this article.
Right.
Democrats running for swing California House seats sidestepped the vice president in their comments. Among them were State Senator Dave Mann, Rudy Salas, Will Rowlands, Derek Tron, and George Whitesides, who all are vying for battleground seats in Southern California. So they're trying to like distance themselves from Kamala because I feel like whoever the Republicans is going to soak. Obviously, any Democrat that's running on in any race, they're going to soak the policies of Biden and Harris to them. And if you were like a border state, or you're on the border with conservative Christians, you know what I mean. That may not be go over too well.
Yeah.
Here, let me see here. Yep. Let me see. Senator LaFonza Butler, a close Kamala Harris ally who was appointed to the seat by Newsom, told Politico that the vice president is as well positioned as she could be to lead the ticket forward. Butler cited Harris's work in the recent years on Biden administration's top messenger on Democrats' efforts to restore abortion rights at the federal level. So I really believe they're going to lean very hard into, trying to get women, to go along with this whole abortion thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they're going to really lean into it. And they're going to, it's going to be a lot of identity politics. We're going to see all of that. Definitely, we're going to see the Alpha Kappa Alphas, sorority stuff, the Power Nine. It's going to be a lot of fear mongering over these next 3 or 4 months, however it is. Yeah, bro. I just, I don't think she's as divisive as Hillary Clinton was when she ran, but they're going to definitely make her persona non grata. The Republicans, tap her hard.
I think she's got enough dirt and enough skeletons in her closet that her being the nominee is going to be bad. It has nothing to do with her being a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's the angle they're going to try to play. They're going to try to bring up this racism, her being black or whatever. She's not black. She's not black. She's Indian. When she ran and won for the Attorney General of California, she was the first Indian woman, and they didn't have a problem saying that. So,
right.
I mean, let's just be honest. Even if she was black, let's say she is black. Let's say, she's black. Let's give her black. Her upbringing still ain't anything like ours. So we don't have an allegiance to her even for that purpose. Right. So, like, we need to kind of, even if she was, though, but we need to step beyond that. We need to be able to look at candidates for more than just their skin color or even their background, because you look at how many have burned us just because, John Lewis was in the civil rights movement. He marched with Martin Luther King.
Right.
And by the end of his life, he had basically become a bootleg to the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Elijah Cummings. He's dead now.
Right.
You look at what's the name? Jim Clyburn, like descendants of freedmen, politicians who have no problem selling us out. So we need to look well beyond that and try to get people who really address our political needs, the needs of our community. But like, yeah, I mean, she can't talk. Let me. You can keep reading the article, but like, there's just one line that she always says something about the time is now or the time is right or something. This phrase, and it's like a supercut of her repeating it. Like that's her go-to phrase. Like Obama's always talking about hope. That's her go-to phrase to always talking about like
what the future could hold and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it. It was like what? Like it was like I said, it's word salad, word soup. You know what I mean? It's just just the rest of the article. We don't have to read anything else of this article. I think it exposed what it was supposed to expose about the prominent California Democrats endorsed Harris on Sunday. Senator Alex Padilla, Rep. Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, Barbara Lee, Mayors Karen Bass and London Breed of Los Angeles and San Francisco, respectively. Yeah. They're gonna really lean into this. Oh, okay. So let me one more, man. Are you able to share audio with a video clip? If you can, you show that.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I should be able to show it.
To be able and then share the audio. Click on the audio so the audience can.
Yeah, the one I'm talking about. Or did you send me a link?
Yeah, I'm trying to send you a link. Wait up. I wanted to go because what I'm saying.
Hey, Brother Darvell is joining us, or at least for how long he can be here. He in the comments. What up, though?
Yeah, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Yeah, we could tag team, man. I don't think I can stay on here for too long, man. You kind of tell them my voice a little bit tired, but I think I have a hard stop at 7. But yeah, I just sent it to you. If you could share that one, because this is what we're going to be getting fed the whole, the rest of these months or what have you. This gender, intersectional. What is it called? Intersectional intersectionality, right? We're going to be, getting this, black woman and women are, and if she lose, I guarantee, it'll be black. We are not protected as a black women aren't respected, aren't protected. You know what I mean?
Let me see.
You black men couldn't see yourselves voting for a black woman. That's that's not that's with Zaddy. You know what I mean? which may have an actual impact, right? I do think that she could probably be push certain black males away based on her record in California as a prosecutor. And there we go. If you could share the video with that.
All right, here we go. I'll play that.
Be allowed to vote. So if he step aside, that'd actually be really cool for me as well to help get another black woman into. It'd be really cool for me. This is actually my first year that I'd be allowed to vote. So if he step aside, that'd actually be really cool for me as well to help get another black woman into, the presidency.
I support Vice President Kamala Harris. She is very qualified for the job, and I look forward to voting for her in the 2024 election.
I really have no feelings about it, honestly. I'm not too interested in this election. And what I have seen, especially related to Biden, are memes, basically on TikTok, because that's where I get all of my news at this point.
I mean, I think it would be great if Kamala did win and we had a black woman in office. It's just like one thing that I'm scared of is that we saw Obama won in 2008, 2012. And then and then Donald Trump won after that. I feel like when you have someone black in office, there seems to be retaliation afterwards.
Obviously, I support them both. I probably would be more excited if she was at the top of the ticket.
This is actually.
All right. I mean,
what's your thoughts, brother?
Well, all right. Man,
What do you think? Here's my thing. Here's a question I have. Do you think white women would vote for a black woman to be in the president before a white woman gets to be in the president?
well, you remember them? What do they call them? Clinton Jaguars back in the day. They wasn't gonna vote for Obama over Hillary. Remember, a lot of them said they was gonna vote for John McCain, or they was gonna stay home or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely possible that some of them won't. I think they won't tell you that they feel that way, because Brother Darvell got a good point. A friend of his said that if white women are forced to choose between womanhood and whiteness, they're going to choose whiteness first. And I mean, historically, that's got to get a little start. But
Yeah,
historically,
yep.
we have seen them do that, right? When you look at they were her property, slavery book, right? White women couldn't own nothing back in the day but slaves. You couldn't inherit nothing from your daddy, but you could inherit his slaves or your husband or some shit. Sorry, pardon me.
Yeah, but you're right.
So that's the situation you in. Even when Frederick Douglass and Harriet Beecher Stowe or whoever it was fell out, or what's not Harriet Beecher Stowe? What's her name? Susan B. Anthony. Who was it? Frederick Douglass, when they was trying to get black men the right to vote.
Yeah.
And they split because, or was that Du Bois? Either way.
Du Bois wasn't alive during that time, man.
Du
Bois came afterwards.
Because Frederick Douglass died in 1908 or 1906?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Du Bois was alive by then because he was born in 1867. So he was alive. He was alive during Frederick Douglass's lifetime.
I'm just saying he wasn't. You're saying during with the Civil War, though, right? You talk. I thought you were talking about the fallout being, black men being able to get armed and vote.
They should already been able to vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he had international prominence.
Right.
But the suffragettes split with Frederick Douglass because white women couldn't vote. Right.
Right. And black men could. You know what I mean? That was a big to do, that black men got the vote before white women did. And it went down a whole chain of things, that helped to institute Jim Crow back, you know what I mean, in the South, just due to that.
Brother Darvell says again, unfortunately, those black women are probably missing half the real situation. Politics 101 needs to be mandatory. And that's, but they don't make it mandatory because they wouldn't be able to do the things that they're doing if they had, a robust political education for everybody. At a minimum, you could expect a robust political education. So we don't have that. But yeah, they talk a good game, but I think they'd rather have Gretchen Whitmer than Kamala Harris if we're talking about white women. And so I think you'd have a lot of bitterness if a black woman or woman of color, she was calling herself an Indian woman, won the presidency, and you had Hillary Clinton, who, even I would say is, as far as qualification to be president is concerned, if that's a metric, is immeasurably more qualified than Kamala Harris was to be president.
Yeah.
Right.
At the same juncture. Yeah.
Right. And
so Secretary of State.
Right. Secretary of State, senator who won her election. Her husband was president. She was intimately involved in certain national and geopolitical doings. So it's not so totally out of the way that she will be able to handle the job with some degree of familiarity.
Right.
But they talk all that mess about woman this, woman that, but I think there'd be some, the same way you see the Karen videos where they going out doing wild stuff and they be having, black husbands or whatever, or whatever the case. I think you'd have that here. And I think, I don't know. I think that'd be, he said, big Gretch over Kamala all day. I
don't know.
She still got to work on these roads for me.
Yeah,
ultimately, these roads a little harder for me.
for my thing about it, man, like, and here's where I think a lot of people are going to miss the point because they're just not in the same headspace that we are. Like, we have to have an ask. Just because Kamala is half, Caribbean black, not even a freedman. Just because he's half, whatever, that shouldn't be a reason why you should vote for her. It should be like, okay, what is she going to do for us? What
Right.
specific policies? And is this the clip right here where she said no?
Yeah,
She wasn't going to
when
do
she
anything
said,
specifically for
I'm
black
bound
people.
by what has been free to be,
Mhm.
free to be what is or something. I'm gonna just play
Oh,
it
it's
right
that
quick.
word. This is the word. It's the word salad. Let me be quiet.
Yeah, she keeps repeating this phrase. I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna play the whole thing because it's like 4 minutes.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened
By what has been.
what we can see, what we believe can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Who we can be unburdened by who we have been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Where we
feel
can
about
be,
minutes every
unburdened
day.
by where we have been, and unburdened by where we are right now. What can be unburdened by what has.
Do you think somebody wrote that for her, or she came up with it? Maybe they were doing what's that thing of it? You say it backwards, it still is good. Like in any different direction, it's the same. It's the same thing. I'm wondering, like, who came up with it because he must have thought that was so clever. that was like oh, that hit the spot right there. You know what I mean? And decided to go with that. I mean,
that's her phrase, man.
I'm wondering if she make that up, or
the
a
delivery,
staffer gave her
everything,
that.
and it's empty.
Right. Yeah.
But just like Darvell saying, policy over identity, and this is what that is.
Right.
That's identity over
Yeah.
policy, because you're trying to
Right.
capture, some. Because black people do have a history of fantastic orators, right?
Mhm.
We do.
Right.
I mean, and I think religion or church or however you want to, the ability to public speak, just in a group, you practice that. So we just have a lot of people who can put words together in a real slick way, whether academically, whether just on the street, you know what I'm saying? From Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, whatever.
Right.
We have a history of people who can talk right.
Dr. Umar.
And so she's trying to capture that.
Right.
She's
right.
trying to
Coming off
appeal
lane.
to our relationship with words and imagery. And it doesn't hit the same because she only got one line.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't even have another line.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You don't.
Palindrome.
She don't even have another line. You know what I'm saying? She has this one phrase because that's not her community. So you're trying to attach something. And Obama got away with it because his wife is black. Your husband is a Jewish man, a white Jewish man. He's not black. So you don't even have that relationship. You don't even get to pretend. And he's been with his wife since his early 20s or mid 20s. So he's been able to be around these black people for 20 years to pick things up, to learn things that he didn't know in order to craft an identity that he could become a part of our community, at least to us, that he could sell himself to us. You didn't even do that.
Nope.
You dated Montel Williams. You dated the mayor Brown from San Francisco.
Right.
Brown.
Willie
and
Brown,
then you ended up marrying a white Jewish man. You went to an HBCU, but you didn't have any formative moments that would define who you are. As a black person, just like you look like the Kendra song. They're not like us. Like you don't have anything that's like us to look at. Everything you were a tourist.
Right.
You visited. My wife went to Spelman. I went to Morehouse. There were white kids who went to those schools. It was the valedictorian. I think the year that I went there was white. He was a white guy. He was the valedictorian in Morehouse. Wow. It was a Serbian white girl or something. at Spelman. So like white people go to these schools too. They get cultural enrichment too. And you're no different. She's no different. You see what I'm saying? But you see these black women who I'll support her because she's a woman, because she's black. Like our community really needs to learn. We have to do whatever we got to do to figure out that we have to have more sincere and investigative understanding of the political process, like Brother Darvell was saying about politics 101, because that can't be the sole motivating factor for somebody to get your vote. Even if you think Trump is the devil, you got to have a reason to go out and get somebody to give them your vote, because you could still just be voting for a different devil. You see what I'm saying? Like if you don't have an affirmative reason to vote for this person, a substantial reason, nothing superficial, but a substantive reason to vote for this person, you're voting for a different devil. That's it. Because she's going to support bombing Israel occupation in Palestine. She's going to support nothing for black people specifically. So no reparations. The delineation of black people from the masses of black, the descendants of freedmen, from the masses of blackness in America. She won't support that. She's not going to support anything for workers. She's not going to do anything for prisoners who are disproportionately descendants of freedmen. What can we expect from her? What can we expect from a Kamala Harris presidency beside not having Donald Trump in office?
Right.
And to what degree will that be enough?
Right.
When I go to the grocery store, my DTE bill was like almost $400. You know what I'm saying? I'm not using more electricity now than normal. I don't have air conditioning. So I'm not using more air or more power than normal. Why did my DTE bill go up?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Why, when I go to the grocery store, I spend $200 and I have less food?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's what are we gonna? And I'm not trying to say that Trump is an alternative. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, you have got to find a way. If the Democratic Party is the party you want to support, you have got to find a way to force this party to do things that would affirmatively benefit you, your community, and your family. And just giving them your vote out of fear that the other guy could be worse is not the answer. It's like being in an abusive relationship, but staying with the guy, because if you go out and leave him and go out in the world, it might be worse. It might be worse. It might be worse. There could be somebody out there who's bigger and stronger and more violent. And that's not, you can't live your life like that. The Democratic Party is not offering us anything. And so for us to even say this, to feel comfortable to say this publicly, that, you're going to support her, not even thinking about the long-term consequences. She put a black woman in jail whose daughter had sickle cell because the girl missed too much school. A single mother, a black woman, she put her in jail when she was attorney general because of the policy, the truancy policy that she had. That if you missed over, I think, 10% of school, you had to go to jail. Your parent had to go to jail. And the girl had sickle cell. She was at home sick. This is the woman y'all think is a sister girl because she's an AKA. One of the white women who got killed in Mississippi burning. The Mississippi burning movie, the real story. I think one of the white women there was a Delta.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and she did more to stand up for the black people's freedom struggle than Kamala Harris did. She got murdered for black people.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all want to, we have to be smarter than this. We have to just be I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. People always say I don't like women, so I try to be a little bit tactful about what I say, but I'm embarrassed. This is embarrassing to me that you would feel comfortable to say this publicly and not feel shame. I want you to feel as ashamed as any Trump supporter you think a Trump supporter should feel for wearing a MAGA hat or having a Trump bumper sticker or a t-shirt with the picture of Trump after he got a shot at in Pennsylvania. I want you to feel just as ashamed, because this is embarrassing that you have such a juvenile, as an adult, as a full-grown person who can legally vote in this country. You have such a juvenile understanding of the political process. Because as much as I said, I pushed back and said the reason it isn't mandatory is because they understand that if it was mandatory, you'd have more uprisings and marches and stuff like in the 60s. And
right.
The reason that is no excuse for you to be grown and not have a better understanding. For kids 18 and under, you at the mercy of a system who is responsible for giving you an education. But after you old enough to vote, it is your responsibility to get a full understanding of the process, both parties, both leading parties, any third parties, what types of policies they're looking to pass, what types of things you want to have for your community and for yourself, and to do the things necessary to get that done. You're not supposed to just give somebody your vote.
They got to earn it, man.
Yeah. I mean, as simple as that. You have to earn it. You already gave Joe Biden your vote, and he didn't deserve it. A man who spent his career destroying the black family.
Hey, I'm about to send
destroying the black community. Not only did you make a law that disproportionately punished crack cocaine versus powder cocaine, right? Not only did you make that a law at the federal level that there would be disproportionate sentencing, but then your son does crack and he still don't go to jail. He hasn't been on camera doing crack more than anybody I know.
Right.
And I have family who have done crack, and I ain't never seen them do it in person. And I have seen your son doing crack on film.
Right.
And he still, and they didn't want to, even the black liberals. Look at Van Jones crying, talking about Joe Biden after the debate, crying. Van Jones. Joe Biden is a good man and XYZ. He must live in a different neighborhood or a different reality than I do.
Right. Yeah, he's
because
not
I don't know that. I saw you just posted another YouTube. So
yeah, let's post another one. Just want to hear what she had to say. It says Biden drops out of the race. Kamala endorses Kamala Harris to be nominee. She released a statement, so I just wanted to hear what that statement was. I don't know where in the clip because I literally haven't listened to the clip, but we could. It's on CNN.
Let's see. I'll pull it up. I'm sharing it now. I'll turn that off. But yeah, I mean,
MJ, I understand that the Vice President Kamala Harris has issued her first public statement. I don't know if you have it right there, but presumably it's on your phone. If you didn't have it, maybe you can read it to our viewers.
Yeah, I've got it, Wolf. We do have the first public statement from Vice President Kamala Harris in the aftermath of President Biden dropping out of the 2024 race. She says that she was honored to have received President Biden's endorsement and intends to earn and win the nomination for the presidency. This, of course, is the first time that we are hearing from him. We did report earlier that President Biden and Vice President Harris did speak on the phone earlier today. That is not surprising. Just a little bit more from the Vice President statement here. She says, I am honored to have the president's endorsement and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. And she also says, talks about how it has been such a profound honor to have served as the president's vice president, expresses her gratitude to First Lady Jill Biden as well, and talks about sort of the relationship that they have built over the years, including the relationship that she had with the president's late son, Beau Biden. This, of course, is something that the president has talked about in the past as having been a factor when he was trying to decide who his vice presidential running mate would be back in 2020. The vice president also says in her statement, with this selfless and patriotic act, President Biden is doing what he has done throughout his life of service, putting the American people and our country above everything else. Wolf, all of the attention now is going to really be on Kamala Harris. This has already been the case for the last several weeks, as we have been sort of in limbo, trying to see where the president was going to land in terms of his own decision. But of course, given that things seemed headed in the wrong direction for the president.
We'll just pause it for a minute. I don't know, copyright stuff. I think you should be good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think it's good, man.
But like, so you don't have a leg to stand on. She don't have a leg to stand on as far as support is concerned. You know, we talked about earlier. Now you said you were right, obviously, but she dropped out before Iowa. But she dropped out because she was projected to lose her home state.
Her home state, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have a base of support. And if your whole goal is to, Trump, it was a video, I think it was in New York, but it was these white women. And I don't know that they were from New York City, but it just happened to be in New York City because New York is still, anybody can come there. But they were protesting against migrants in New York City, white women.
Right.
Right. And these have been the people who, have been the most vocal supporters of the Democratic Party agenda. People are getting tired of this. Democratic people are getting tired of this. They're getting tired of the way the country is being run, not because they think, Trump is necessarily capable of doing something better, but they don't like what's happening. When it comes to the real life interactions of regular people, they don't like what's going on. I went to New York like 3 weeks ago. I was in Times Square. And I could see I just assumed there was migrants sitting around Times Square on the ground, like huddled up, like gangs of guys.
Wow.
Maybe like 3 or 4 at a time, like sitting around each other on the ground. And they didn't look like homeless people, like how homeless people kind of try to get out of the way. They weren't doing that. They were just sitting in the middle of the street. And I'm not going, they looked menacing or whatever. Right. But they were just smoking weed, sitting in a circle in the middle of like Times Square.
Wow.
Or if not Times Square,
they weren't performing
Broadway or wherever.
Yeah. In the street, not like on the.
Yeah, on the sidewalk. On the sidewalk.
Right.
I say in the street, but on the sidewalk. And it's already crowded to walk. So it might not have been Times Square because it was we were going to the sandwich place. So it's either in Broadway or Times Square. One of the two.
Got it. Yeah.
But they were just sitting around on the street. And you've heard stories, you've seen videos. We talked earlier about how in Massachusetts, they're not putting them in Boston, but they're putting them on the outskirts of Boston. And so I imagine that's happening all over the country, even in Michigan, where you're probably putting them in Western Michigan and Northern Michigan and Central Michigan and outside of Southeast Michigan or far enough outside of Metro Detroit that they could be brought in and hide under the radar and nobody's going to make a big deal out of it.
Right.
But what is the purpose of this? You have people here who need jobs. People here who look at the homeless situation, right? Look at the healthcare situation. They didn't want to pay for us to have healthcare, for example, because they said it would cost too much to give American citizens healthcare. But you've given hundreds of billions of dollars over the last 2 years or 3 years to foreign countries.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? People are fed up. So she just doesn't have a leg to stand on. She doesn't have any charisma. As we can see from her speaking, she doesn't have any ability to public speak. We've got I could have pulled up clips of her word salad, but I just thought this was funnier because she repeats the literal same phrase. But she laughs uncontrollably, uncomfortably. You don't have any, in true vice presidential fashion, you pick somebody to be a vice president who's not going to show you up. You know what I'm saying? Biden wouldn't pick somebody who was a better person than he was, who was more well put together. That's not what you do. You have a backup dancer. You don't have a co-lead. And so, she's not suited for that position.
Right.
And they would love Gavin Newsom to be the guy. And I just think, with the laws that are being passed in California recently and over the last couple of years, the way he handled the virus and some of the stuff having to do with transgender policy and parents' rights, I don't think he'd be a viable candidate nationally. I don't think he'd be able to convince enough people that he'd be good for the country and simultaneously not infringe on rights as parents or whatever. So I think the Democrats have really painted themselves into a corner, right? I think we talked about this. I think this was a part of their plan to make Biden the nominee and then replace him because you knew none of the other candidates could win. Nobody else had people would vote for Joe Biden because they had already voted for him and he was already in. So the process to keep him the nominee was safe. But to have a campaign of Gretchen Whitmer, of Gavin Newsom, of Kamala Harris, that was just going to be pardon my French, a shit show. You know what I'm saying? And so now you can put guys want to put up, and you just assume your Democratic lackeys will follow and vote for who the party tells them to vote for. But she can say what she wants to about not wanting this to be a coronation or whatever, but she doesn't have the stage presence, anything. She doesn't, she literally made it everywhere she's been in politics as a result of a relationship she's had, a personal relationship, a sexual relationship, or because she's been somebody who can check a box. That's it. I'm not saying she's not intelligent. She's got a law degree. I'm not saying that she's, the dumbest woman on the planet or anything. But what I'm saying is there are people who are measurably more qualified for the positions that she's held.
Right.
And the reason she's gotten these jobs is strictly because she checks boxes. You check the Asian box, you check the black box, you check the woman box or whatever. You check boxes. You don't have the skills necessary to make a political career. You just don't have it. Even when she won her Senate seat, the California political machine got behind her to make her the senator from the state of California. She doesn't have that type of pull. She just doesn't have it.
Well, man, like I was saying, brother, I'm gonna go ahead and check on out or what have you. I think I've said my piece on it. I'm sure we'll have many more additional topics to talk about as the week goes on, as it becomes more, distance from the decision, for him to step down and everything else. I'm all about policy, man. And if, I think this, like, one of the things that I would be excited about Newsom becoming the nominee, because I believe, if we gave him an ask, meaning the reparations movement gave him an ask to go ahead and get that ball, make the study of reparations a presidential committee versus just a congressional one, or congressional act or what have you. I think, Biden had the power to do that. Kamala would as well, but we know they're not willing to do so. Being that Gavin supported the state measure in California, I think we could have a possible, if he became the president, I think that could be a pathway at least rolling to get a congressional committee or a presidential committee on the subject of it at least, even though there's a bunch of information out there. But again, it would set a good precedence because hopefully legislation could come out of it. That's my take on it as far as like one of the possible people who could challenge Harris or what have you. But they may end up not doing that at all because it might just say, hey, that's too messy, might burn bridges. What if she does become the president? Then what? You know what I mean? When it comes to congressional funding and things of that nature. So a lot of them, they may just sit it out and just say, hey, this is a lost cause anyway. 2028, Trump, I do believe Trump is going to not stay in the office, bro. You know what I'm saying? Now, will he do some retribution during his presidency as far as like digging up dirt, putting dirt out there? Yeah. I think Trump is going to definitely do lawfare when he, he's going to definitely come after his opponents because I feel like Trump is that petty of a type of dude, right? He became a victim of it. He'll try to exert that on, but I don't think it's going to, ultimately alter the institution of the United States wholly. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I would like to believe that there are those in government, and it even happened in his last term. You know what I'm saying? He had, generals, different chiefs of staff, stand up to him like, no, we can't do that, Mr. President. You know what I mean? Eventually they were let go, but I feel like our institutions were strong enough to withhold like somebody trying to say, hey, I'm gonna make myself a third term and commit, and then say this is a war, to issue in martial law and all that good stuff. This is how they're trying to say this is going to actually happen. Right. You know what I mean? And I just don't feel like our like I said, our institutions would allow that to occur, bro. I think they would have some checks and balances. I think some people would say, okay, it's a little bit too far. You know what I mean? Like, no, Mr. President, you can't stay in office for another term. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we have that. I think we have that checks and balances in our government to not fall for that, man. I think they're only going with Trump and going, and the same reasons why, Biden and people stuck around with Biden for so long is access to power. You know what I mean? That's all this is. This acceptance of stuff that we normally we wouldn't have ever seen happen or occur. It's all, everyone's turning away, acting like they didn't see what they saw on both sides of the aisle, because if it gives them power, access to power, politically wise, they have to toe the line. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. But I'm not too worried about it, man. I feel like this country deserves what it deserves. The Democrats deserve what they deserve based on the decisions that they made by never truthfully having a open and fair, competitive primary process for the last two, 2016 and 2020 really kind of showed you, what I mean, the big bosses of the Democratic Party, showing his weight, pulling his weight around, you know what I mean, by forcing and making it non-competitive. First was Bernie in 2016, same thing in 2020, and now with Biden, right? You have Marianne Williamson, also a person that endorsed reparations, because again, that's my litmus test for everything. Is, if you're not talking about reparations or something specific to our people to heal us specifically, then I'll just skip on the federal level, you know what I mean, or however many times I have to, because I think it's paramount that we get concrete tangibles out of all of this. All right, then, brother man. So I'm about to go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna probably close out. Yeah, I'll close. I mean, if you want to leave or if you want to stay and do
yeah. If you're gonna close out,
I'll close it out.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, I agree with what you were saying. I just want to say, as far as the commentary you gave, I agree with you, especially about the litmus test being reparations. Mm-hmm. And so you had this close primary, you closed ranks around Biden, even though 70-some% of the American voters or Democratic voters wanted to have an open primary. Right. So that they could pick a viable candidate. I mean, you kicked off Robert F. Kennedy from being able to run. Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks was trying to run. That one congressman from Minnesota said he was trying to run. Marianne Williamson was trying to run, and they got no airtime. And so what this showed, like you said, this is the third year in a row or third election in a row, the Democratic Party essentially tried to coronate somebody, and it is backfired in some capacity. I mean, because even if you say that Biden did win, his presidency has been so terrible that I think it's done. I won't say irreparable damage, because I thought the Republicans were gonna. I thought after Bush, no Republican would ever win again. But that's always contingent on that party doing something for the people, and so because they don't. Because they don't, because they won't. Because they don't, because they won't. There's always this pendulum swinging of who wins this term and who wins the next term. But like you said, I mean, we have mechanisms in place. Trump is not going to be able to undermine the country that much. It's a scare tactic. You had generals, as you stated, who openly disobeyed. And I mean, Mark Milley's still in there. If Mark Milley still ain't in the government, he just stepped down of his own volition under Biden. So you had people in government who openly disobeyed the president's orders, people in the military, And so, I mean, a lot of this is
it's on vice president. It's on vice president.
Right.
Hence,
it's all
you know
fear mongering.
Yeah, bro.
That is what this boils down to. It is fear mongering. The country, to whatever degree, is still going to be here from year to year. What is really going to be the problem long term is the fact that we have no infrastructure. We have no tax base. The workers, we don't produce anything. The quality of life is crumbling. So if anything is going to destroy America, it's going to be that. It's going to be the greed of the rich and the wealthy who have exploited this country, who have outsourced jobs, and you've hollowed out this country, and you expect it to still function in some capacity. You've bought the government. Special interest groups and lobbyists control Congress. They control the White House. They control the Supreme Court to various degree. And so that's what's going to really undermine America. You're going to have so much apathy among the citizenship that if a real situation pops off, if Russia, if China, if Iran, if some country says, hey, we're ready to try to sink our teeth into America because we got some plans, there will be nobody here to fight because everybody will be so dejected that nobody will care. There will be no one here who will have a genuine interest in saving this country. And so, that's what it is. Like you said, we're going to be doing more shows about this, and just I think we're going to try to get more shows out in general because, the world is moving fast. Things are popping off. We didn't do a show about the Trump assassination because I think, that was kind of just, I feel like that with YouTube, that's kind of too much of a touchy topic to even be dealing with some of the aspects that we might have wanted to talk about. But, we're glad we could get with you on this. We'll try to get some combination of the Freedman Collective together to do shows. It's just two of us today, but sometimes it'll be all four of us. Sometimes it'll be just three. I know when y'all did the election show, I wasn't able to participate. So, but we're still here. We're still trying our best to help you all navigate this crazy political climate. I'm Conspiracy Brother. This is my brother here.
Yeah.
J Rocky.
J Rocky, JBL.
You want to give your famous closing? We have no permanent.
Yeah, we have exactly, man. I'll just end it with this, man. We have no permanent friends. We have no permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. You know what I mean?
And that's simple as that. So your home girl, sister girl, sorority sister, whatever you want to call her. None of that matters. She might have went to your same university. You went to Howard. She graduated from Howard. That don't mean nothing. Sellouts come in all shapes and sizes, all genders, colors, and creeds. And we need to be mindful of who is working for our community and who is trying to kill us. And she is trying to kill us. So, all right.
Exactly. All right. Peace.